Thank you so much, Richard, for being here. I am like excited, really excited. And there's so many parts of your stories, and I'm like, oh, where are we gonna get to go down most and like get the most out of it? But I really think everything you're gonna say is gonna be useful for us. So I want to just start by taking 30 seconds to explain to us exactly what you do today.
What I do today, I am the proud CEO of Costa Rica's call center. We're a nearshore bilingual dedicated call center. It deals with outbound lead generation, appointment setting, and sales, inbound customer support, back office support, and non-voice support. And ST, I can't thank you enough for being on your podcast today. This is awesome.
Yes, it is. So how long have you been doing it? Like,
Excuse me?
how long have you been CEO of this business?
We celebrated our 15th year, February 6th. I've been in the industry for 23 years. I came here
Wow.
originally August of 2000 to work at my friend center. So I learned the business, but in my mid 30s, I threw my hat in the ring and here we are today.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so let's go like a little bit all the way back to when you were a child. You mentioned to me some sort of switch in schools. Can you tell us about that? Like what happened to you as a child?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe in certain environments, there's better ground to grow better flowers. And so I was at a private school that my father and brother graduated from. And maybe in seventh grade, I wasn't focused, was looking at other things and did not do very well. So I finished my high school at a public school, the Proud Abington High School. And from being a failing student, that was the example of not to be, I turned it around and really shined there. And really, they paid it forward by giving me college recommendation letters to offset my grades, but to encourage me to be a Spanish major. And so there are certain mentors that I've had in my life that have balanced my bike ST and have given me some solid advice, encouraged me to follow my dreams, things that were with good intentions. And so I didn't have the grades for Ivy League, and I just didn't have the interest for the medical or law degrees. But I knew I loved languages, and if I could be the only one out of my friends to do that, then maybe the world could be my oyster.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit. What happened in seventh grade that when you switched schools, you were now able to like flourish and do much better?
What happened in seventh grade was that when you're in elementary school, you could almost just sit in class and pay attention and do well in the exams. For some crazy reason, seventh grade was a little different. It just seemed like the compositions were longer, the homework was longer. And whatever it was at 13 years old, I really didn't understand the concept of time because I figured that if I just stacked my books on a table on a Sunday and gave myself 8 hours, I could figure it out like the movies. But time flies. And also, physiologically, I was getting tired. My eyes were hurting. And it's just, I remember this right before final exams, it must have been May of 85. And I was sitting at my dining room table and I was overwhelmed and it hit me. And I was trying to look for somebody to blame, but really, I could only blame myself. So it was one of the worst times of my life to be very disappointed in myself because the rest of the time I was jumping clouds and life was great. But this was some serious consequence. I was going to fail out of school and my parents were going to be embarrassed and they weren't going to know what to do with me. And so at that young age, you don't have the maturity to talk about it as an adult. You almost have to own it. And especially when your friends that you grew up with, they weren't allowed to play with you anymore, and the parents were disappointed in you, and you kind of felt like a loser, which I was. But also, in a sense, my good friend, it was the only way for me to get out of that private school. The only way was to fail out. And so it was almost like the coyote effect. I had to gnaw off my arm to get out of that cage. So
Right.
stay.
Did you want to go out before?
Yeah, it was one of the greatest things that ever happened in my life. Sometimes you have to get dirty to get clean, and just to see what it's like to shine a diamond. And so when I was in this new environment at Abington, I almost had to get rid of bad habits because I came from an environment that was very closed. And I got a chance to meet a lot of different people that had a lot of self-confidence. And so I took the best of them. But it's such a delicate stage. And looking back at it now, a lot of people gave up on me. And the ones that believed in me, especially when you're at the lowest, those are the ones I still keep in touch with to these days. Those were the real friends. They loved you for who you were.
Oh yeah. Did like the most people go through some sort or go through many transitions through their lives, right? But this sort of transition that you had at 13 for most people happens older, like 18, 22, or maybe even later on in life, of like really taking responsibility for their lives and like saying like, okay, I need to like change some habits. How do you think that affected you later on as an adult?
Well, being threatened to be sent to military school if you don't get your act together, not having the grades to get into college and have fun. I mean, you were going to be left out, and it was all your fault because you didn't properly prepare. And so, as I say, back in the 70s and 80s, it wasn't as convenient as today to find that sort of mentorship on YouTube or other sort of mediums. You almost had to be self sufficient. I mean, I knew how to read and write. I just saw it as a chore and I was bored, but I had to snap together. And so it's more fun to not be in trouble than to be in trouble. And it's okay to be a rebel because you'll be popular and you have a good time. But there's a certain point of where you become a joke or you'll become the punching bag or the fall guy. And I wanted to have that special balance where I could kick my feet up and live life, but also follow through so I can advance in life. But when you're young, a lot of people have their lives planned out for them through careers and family businesses. And I had that opportunity, but I didn't want it. How about this? Because I like thinking like a child. I wanted to leave a castle to slay a dragon. I really wanted a folklore and an adventure. I wanted to see what I could do in life. And even if it started out eating bread and cheese and staying in a youth hostel, well, that's an excellent start. I think you have a much more richer life that way than if you do sitting in a mansion counting your money by yourself. Um, so I realized that through different experiences with people outside of my bubble, that the stuff that we were holding so important in Philadelphia and Arizona, in the United States, sometimes don't matter in other places. People look more for depth and essence. And if you're able to dance in the rain and have sincere conversations with people, then you're going to have a very rich life. And I learned that at a very young age because I had to make major changes then. I lost an entire group of people I grew up with, had to start anew. And I have my hair combed to the side, wearing yellow eyes odds. No one wanted to be friends with me. I was I was a loser with no game. So they had to straighten me out. Now I'm going to date myself. Back in the day, you're talking about Cavariccis and Gerbeau. When you fold your I mean, I was dressing super old school Philly, but it
Yeah.
changed me. And I shed some skin. And anytime
Oh,
you can have a coming of age moment, coming of age, those are the times when you could shed some skin, master a level, and move on to the next level, my friend.
yeah, and I know you've had more of them, especially when you moved abroad. What was that about? Like, how did that transition affect you?
Well, there was a preparation. Naturally, learning the second language. I spent my junior year abroad in Spain, so going to Costa Rica, I was already accustomed to being an expat. I had friends that were here, so naturally, I had all the advantages of knowing what to do. But in my late 20s, I wanted one more shot at it. A lot of people were settling in with families, careers, and mortgages, and they were doing great. But I figured that as an adult and a little money in my pocket, let me see what it would like to play at this stage. And what I did was I saw work differently. And I took every day as if it were my last, because it could have been. I could have been sent home at any time. And living life not on eggshells, but on clouds. It's a beautiful way to live because everything's brighter. You eat a little slower, you take your time. And Philadelphia, you're moving so fast and there's so much stress that when I come back to visit, it's very interesting. I can keep up, but it just doesn't affect me as much. It almost washes off
Wow.
because I know it. I just don't absorb it anymore. I've really seen such beautiful things in life, and it's taught me how to become more grounded and more centered. And so being a guest here, I'm constantly showing my manners and being invited into homes and given second plates of food and introduced and maybe representing us in the best light, my friend. because I might be the first gringo they ever meet or the first owner of a company they ever meet. So if you have that leverage, we might as well smile and do the best that we can. That's
Yeah,
the
I
way I
see
look at it.
a lot of like the word that's coming to mind as you're talking and just experiencing and seeing your background even and just like what's going on is play. The word play of like having fun and enjoying life.
Yes. Wasn't recess your favorite class? Isn't that where you made your best friends?
Agreed.
You could let off steam. My favorite game back in the day was hospital dodgeball, but I created a medium. Behind me, there's a 1961 Ricola Regis, my candy machine. That's just in my office. But downstairs, I have pinball machines and an air hockey table. And I want them to experience a game that they can't do virtually. And I want them to let off steam and make friends from other departments. And prior to their first training class, why don't the 2 dozen people meet each other and have some fun? It
Right.
reduces attrition, and you can catch somebody on a bad day and just get them downstairs to the game room. And what about Willy Wonka? You look at that big factory where it's cold and gray, but when you walk into that one room, there's a chocolate river and you can eat everything. And so I want to take a frown and put it into a smile when they walk through the game room to go upstairs, just to let them know that there is an environment to breathe and there's a happy medium for you. That's free play that
Yeah.
you can use at any time.
I also think it's one of the greatest ways of learning through play, either learning other people and learning yourself and learning concepts, learning ideas. So that's absolutely awesome. I always like to consider myself, I'm still 5. I like playing.
Of course you
And
do.
I'm staying 5 my whole life.
But different games, my friend. The
Yes.
pinball is something they've never played before, and I could not agree more about feeling the machine and having that experience and seeing those old Ricolas, and they see my passion and they understand how these beautiful old restored machines are special. And then they're confused. Is this where you spend your money? And I go, just like Tom Hanks in the movie Big, absolutely. I made money. But as a fifth grader, come on, SD, we're getting candy and games. I mean, that's where we're spending our money. And
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. How do you think it affects like this having this mindset affects building and growing your business?
It reduces defense of people. They can see a fun side of me so I don't look plastic. And you mentioned through play, you have a medium to make friends and talk about things and to see a second side of them. Like when you bring a puppy in the office, usually people speak puppy talk and have a different voice. And I like to ask coming of age moments of people that come into the office so I can give them nicknames and see their depth. But in regards to team building, you can do it the old way through fear, and you can do the old structured way where you force them to go something outside of the office hours to participate, where they're resentful because they'd rather do something else. And so I try to incorporate it where I'm trying to tap into that 15% that they still have, but they just lost. The fact that we're professionals doesn't mean that we can't have fun. That's why it's always interesting to see older people dancing because they're not supposed to be doing that. But when the women, like at the end of Dirty Dancing, these old grandmas stood up, threw off their mink coats and started dancing, it's a surprise. No, it's not. It's life. They should be dancing at every stage of their life. Why are you surprised that people that wear a suit to wear a t-shirt shouldn't be dancing? Who are you comparing anybody to? These are the sort of images that we're seeing online, on the internet. These are the sort of influences that we have. Well, not everybody can be a high school cheerleader or a starting quarterback, and there's plenty of popular people in school that are not in those departments. But in certain movies, that's who they claim is the apex of high school. But then again, they're the ones that are protected from others because it's just, just an image. And
Yeah.
so I believe that wearing this today, my friend, is just out of utmost respect for you and your audience. But if you caught me on another day, I'm chilling. And so if this is the only image you have of me, that's fine, but it's superficial. If you take the time, then you'll see there's much more depth and width to that. And so I think people shouldn't be fooled, and they should take the time and give people benefits of the doubt. And they should ask second and third questions of somebody, not just glancing over for small talk. It's more for anchoring. and to see what else we have in common, and also to show sincere interest, because if not, they just think that you're being played. And so, and then imagine if you remember things about somebody. ST, I knew your whole bio before we got on this today, and I loved it and was amazed by it. And so these are the sort of things, instead of doing half court shots, now we're at not even foul percentages. I'm dunking the ball. That's how close we are to scoring points. We're just reducing odds and bringing people closer together. And my friend, we're doing it naturally. I'm
Yeah.
not going to write a book. These are the sort of things that someone can feel if somebody wants to become closer to them. It's a beautiful dance if they're capable of doing it.
Everyone's capable. It may have to be some skills that they have to develop first. But which brings me to my question of like, was this something that you felt that you had naturally your whole life, or you had to develop it?
Both. I knew I had something in me, the fire. I just didn't know how to use it. Do I burn or do I use it for life? And so I had mentors. I liked watching people that preferred to use rhetoric than a sword. Like I enjoy the Face Man on the A Team and Remington Steele. These were shows where they were suave and had extended vocabulary and were cool. And I thought that was nice. It was a proper presentation instead of just using slang or mumbling or speaking in monotone. And I realized that somebody that might have more assets and resources than me might not present it better than me. And so I realized early on, but by looking at name tags and using somebody's name might get you a first class plane ticket, that table by the window at a crowded restaurant, a discount, or waving you in when there's a long line because you've been so nice to Judy for the past 5 years that you get the VIP. And I didn't do it through finance. I did it through merit. And it's amazing how when you go into certain places, the individuals that open doors and assist you, that no one learns their name. They don't give positive escalations. They don't tell the owner of the company that Billy in the mailroom and Kathleen, your assistant, are the most incredible people you have working at your company. And I do it in writing. And what does that do when I call your company back and Kathleen answers the phone? She will thank me for it, say, in the dozen years she's been there, you're the only one that did that. Oh, by the way, ST, this is her personal extension. Remind her of her birthday coming up. And this is some secret sauce about our company culture that you might want to discuss with her when you talk with her again, because I'm going to pencil you in. And so I've learned to do these sort of things and make happy and make nice. And these are the sort of things ethically that make you feel good because you're not compromising them. And you always have a choice to earn a living, especially in my industry. And if you could do something where you're paying it forward, reducing stress, retaining a client, then guess what you're doing? You're making the company a ton of money, and you're really helping somebody that may be having a bad day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, completely. There's two things I want to cover on this.
Yes.
What you just said. Number one, how this skill set and these values or this approach to life has really helped you when you were starting and really growing the company. Start with
Oh,
that.
it's a wonderful thing. It's like a boat. It's seaworthy, right? I just don't know where to go. But when I was making it, I took my time, nail by nail, and pieces of wood and the laminates and stuff, and even the little final touches. But you know perfectly well, water for the desert. And if you are prepared for that forced march and that long journey. And so by having my Abington and Philadelphia bravado, my education background with Spanish, interning for Telemundo and Corona Beer prior to coming to Costa Rica, my good friend, I was in fifth gear with amazing momentum. Top was down. Back in the day, wind in my hair. And so it's being bold and brave, but the odds are amazing. And you can almost see the land in the distance. The question is just staying focused. Now, there's also target paralysis. You could see the distance and not see your footing and hurt yourself. And so I believe in both. You have your compass, but you should be watching your steps. And along the way, I had checkpoints, especially financially. And I wanted to make sure that I never overextended myself. these were the sort of things that were taught to me as to by my grandparents. They had credit cards for emergencies, but if you couldn't pay for it in cash, you don't do it. So as much as I could have had bells and whistles and had a certain image in the beginning, I wasn't acting my wage. And I think one of the greatest things is natural water levels. And when a client calls you out on it or asks you it, if that's what's behind the curtain and in the kitchen, you're good. The worst thing ever is pretend to be. And so people will expect and work and grow with you if they know where they're starting. And so for me, I was taught for no surprises. And if four is the only thing I have, then I'm proud of my four. And that's what I got. And a lot of people like that vigor. A lot of people want to stay at a bed and breakfast so they can know the owner and have that home cooked meal in a cozy kitchen compared to a stuffy big hotel. And so I can give that sort of additional bedside manner and attentive passion towards what people are doing. And my good friend, all you need is 1/10 of 1% of a market and you could be a millionaire.
Oh yeah.
I don't need to be a king, just make me a prince. And so by having my own specific crayon color, there are certain people that would choose that. And I'd rather have them choose that because I might not be a good fit for some people. So why force a fit? It's better to make it perfect from the beginning.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. It's like really knowing what you're really good at and staying true to it, right? A bit like the vulnerability we were talking about before. But the last thing I really want to hit on before we finish is you mentioned multiple times about mentors that helped you along the way.
Yes.
How are mentors still helping you today, and how do you see yourself as a mentor to others?
When you don't have to pay to be somebody's friend, it's a real mentor, right? It's someone that's gotten it and it's paying it forward. For my kindergarten teacher in my first report card calling me the Hans Christian Andersen of the class, that was a great positive reinforcement. He says you enjoyed my stories. And then in high school, when I got that recommendation letter, and sports coaches that took me from left wing and put me in goalie as a hockey goalie. So I played that through college. So there were people that adjusted my bike along the way and didn't ask for anything in return. They just liked the spring in my step. And they saw something in them and me and realized I needed a slight adjustment. And they did it tactfully. First, they ask if they may make a suggestion, which reduces any sort of defense. Or they were even smarter. They talked about the time they skinned their knee and warned me not to do something. And that's the smartest thing to do. Don't put your hand on the stove. It's got to teach that lesson. And so for me today, what I do is I see the people want to win and they want the gold medal, but they don't want to put in the dedicated practice in the middle. They can start with the motivation and then they win at the end. But it's Rocky at 4:30 in the morning drinking eggs and running the street, with Butkus. And no one saw my early years. I can't say it was a struggle, but any athlete knows what it's like to do that first push-up and to get back in the ring. Or when there's a lot of naysayers and gray believers out there that say NO, but my dear ST, it's because they don't KNOW enough about my vision quest, about my spiritual life journey. Because at the end of the day, when we're looking at ourselves in the mirror, putting our heads on the pillow, those are the moments of clarity. And you're by yourself. The greatest thing you could do is to smile and give yourself a wink and a high five and to love yourself at the end of the day. Even if you didn't make a sale, but you had honorable intentions, even if you did first steps of something, even if you made your bed, had a good diet that day, I don't know, maybe paid 2 or 3 compliments to strangers. Those are the sort of things that come around. And so for me, my stars were aligned. This was a long shot. This should have never happened. I should be in a family business. But I decided to be selfish and to drink life and to take my chance. And so today, I'm just letting your audience know to be brave and to really see where you fit in this beautiful world and be responsible. Maybe just dip your toe in the pool and test it And if things are coming back positive, then you should invest more of your time and resources. And rock on, ST. You bring the best out of me.
Aw, awesome. Okay, before we get to our final just real quick question, where can people connect with you and learn more about you?
Well, they can buy a first class plane ticket and fly to Costa Rica. I got
Ooh.
1,000 suggestions, but I got an extremely large Facebook fan page, about 117,000 local Costa Rican Ticos, and it will give your audience a real grasp of the business processing outsourcing industry in Central America. Now, real quick, we're north of Panama, south of Nicaragua. Costa Rica is the only democratic society in Central America, so there's no standing army. We have a 95% literacy rate, the most neutral accent, English accent in Central America, best infrastructure. Check this out. Companies such as Amazon, HP, Intel, and Oracle are here. So I compete with them. But guess what? Jeff Bezos is the man, but he hasn't played pinball with all of his call center agents. I have. So at least I win in that category. But we're known for ecotourism and medical tourism. And it's such a beautiful place with some of the best surfing in the world. And Costa Rica has an expression. They say pura vida, which means pure life. And if your audience can reduce and eliminate those outside factors and replace that with natural things that make you happy, then I think you will shine. And as I said before, have the most incredible life.
Yeah, oh, I love that. Okay, so we're the Facebook group, where is that?
Costa Rica's call center.
Awesome. Okay, the links to that and everything else will be in the show notes. But final question, just real quick. What
Sure.
is something controversial that you believe in?
Something controversial. Well, that's interesting. I think that somebody should have the right for self-expression as long as it's not hurting somebody else. I don't have a tattoo, but I've seen some of the most beautiful artwork on some individuals. Do I agree with it? For them, absolutely. For myself, just not today. I haven't found something yet I wanted to put on or was in the moment, but it's something foreign to me, but something so similar because a lot of my agents here express themselves in certain ways. And the clients, when they get to see them on a Zoom, go, that is not how I thought you looked. Well, why? It's just, the congruence, the audio matches the visual. So I love certain hair colors and styles. If people want their piercings and tattoos, if somebody feels free enough to express themselves to the world, it's just another amazing page of your book that immediately I can anchor with you. Because if I compliment it, you're going to love it. And then you start asking questions. And so you're inviting me to meet you because you're showing me so many things we can have in common, especially if they have animals on themselves. It's their puppy or something, and you got to ask about their puppy. And it's just, you see a normal face that's going through life snap into a smile and talking. And the next thing you know, you're getting a nice hug goodbye and you just made a friend.
Yeah, yeah.
How wicked cool is that? And so when you see a doctor or an attorney or an airline pilot, I saw an ad years ago where you saw the doctor with its uniform on and then you saw them without and you saw all the tattoos. Does it make a difference? No, it doesn't make a difference. This makes a difference. This makes a difference. And so anyone that's extra conservative or doesn't understand it or might not be in that moment of growth or self-expression, in my mind, I prefer that doctor that has the most skills. And if they have the tattoos, that's the greatest even ever. And so
Right.
that's my controversial topic, my friend, if I had to go out there, yes.
I absolutely love it. And I think that it just highlights what you're so good at. I think one of your talents or specialties, superpowers, I should say, is the giving the compliments, right? Like it's hard to give a compliment to someone who is so good at giving compliments, but you just shared with us like a really good way to be able to find something to compliment someone, even when it seems like there's not so much in common.
You just don't say nice tattoo. You go,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
ask about the puppy's breed, you talk about the shadowing. My favorite thing is, how many hours did that take? Was that 8 hours? And the guy's
Yeah,
like, no,
exactly.
15.
Right.
It's
But
like
yes, like you said, it's a
you
friend for life after.
Yeah, it's so much fun. You're hitting five yeses in a row, and it elevates from like a six to like a nine immediately.
Oh
And you
yeah.
haven't even asked the person's name yet. Mm,
Right? That's a good point. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Richard. I really enjoyed talking with you today.
this was so much fun, St. Thank you so much as well.